What's up, everybody? Today is a very, very special day because it's the official launch of my very own podcast, In the Mind of a Man. Okay, so Brittany and I decided that she's going to take over when reality hits, and I'll be starting on my own. In the Mind of a Man, just to give you guys a backstory and on where this kind of came from. So a few months ago, my team and I thought, some different ideas that just kind of, made the most sense to do something that was, really authentic and was definitely me. What would be authentic for Jax Taylor? And I guess, it's no secret that I've made tons and tons of mistakes in the past. We all know that, throughout the years. Unfortunately, you've seen my unhinged behaviors, when it comes to various relationships I've been in and, just all the BS that you guys have seen over the years. And I felt like it would be like a natural, transition to bring all those personal experiences and lessons and have an unfiltered podcast where I can kind of tackle the many different elements of the modern dating, relationships and the male psyche with, raw, true honesty. And at the same time, I think you'll get to know me on a deeper level, to hear from me and the way nobody really has. Because like I said, over the years, you watch the show, right? And it's so cut down. We film hours and hours and hours and hours every season, right? And I've said this before, we have so many cast members, so you're not really seeing the authentic person, each person. So, that's why I love these podcasts, because you can kind of get to know me and I can kind of explain situations a little bit better. So that's kind of why I decided to do this. So we definitely felt there was like an untapped space here. So many women seem to be, trying to figure out men and what some of their behaviors are, what they mean. Men and women are obviously two completely different species, let's be honest. So I'm in no way pretending to be some expert here. I want to make that very, very clear. I'm very, very far from it. I'm actually the opposite, actually. But I do think I can decode various situations from a raw male's perspective, especially when it comes to toxic behaviors. Everybody's laughing here. And maybe I can help you guys learn some of the signs, quote unquote, red flags. I don't know if you guys saw some of my pictures I've been posting lately. It's the red flags. I thought that would be kind of funny and whatever. And anyway, so the red flags will prevent you from, wasting your time, ultimately getting hurt. If I can help you with that, great. So maybe you won't get anything from this at all. And who knows, either way, really. I think this podcast will be a lot of fun and give you some laughs at the end of the day, coming home from work or going to work. So that's kind of why I wanted to do it. And hopefully, I can give you some help. So we're going to have lots of guests ranging from psychologists, dating experts, sex therapists, and of course, reality stars. Those are my friends, those are my peers, and I'm sure you all want to hear from them and figure out what's going on in their brain. So all while we're going to break down the mysteries of men. There's going to be nothing off limits. I want to answer everybody's questions, men or women, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I want to dive deep into everything, whether what is your life, whether what you guys thought on Vanderpump, what was my thinking when it was on some of the situations on Vanderpump. I'm going to be honest with you on that I don't remember a lot of the situations that I was in because, I blacked out of a lot of it. And let's be honest, I was drinking a lot. So anyway, I want to thank so many of you been messaging me lately and supporting this new series. A lot of you been messaging me. It's been really, really cool. And I was really nervous about all this. I wasn't sure how this was going to go, if you people were going to like it or not. And you guys really, really do. I love that you seem to enjoy it. So this is now, I guess, how you understand how this kind of came to be. And that's kind of where it's going. That's what's going on with Brittany and when reality hits. So I guess let's get this started. And day one of In the Mind of a Man. So here we go. So before I announce my first guest, I want to touch on the Hot Mic podcast that came out last week. Last week. So it was tough. I'm not going to lie. I was very, very stressed about it. Wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure. I didn't really care what anybody thought except for Brittany, to be honest. I just wanted to make sure she was happy, and it was very honest. It was very raw. I know it was probably very hurtful to her to listen to, and she was my only priority, really, when I was doing that. I wanted to make sure that I was very delicate. Like I said, she has gone through the most out of all of this, and I know people are are going to reach out to her and, probably applaud her. But there's the people that don't and say, hey, listen, why didn't you try to get him help sooner? I just want to make this very, very clear. She's been trying to get me help for years. 4 years. This is in no way, shape, or form her fault at all. She should not be getting any kind of flack for this whatsoever. She's an amazing mother. She's an amazing person, and she's a human being, and she was pushed. She was pushed to her limits, and I don't blame her. And yes, I'm sober now and all that, but that doesn't mean I'm fixed by any means. And I don't want people to think, well, why aren't you more proud of him? Yeah, this is a small step in a large process here. So I have a long way to go. And there was other things that went on in a relationship too that, had nothing to do with drinking and alcohol that she's still upset about. So please understand when she, people saw her feedback and what she said and were like, well, it didn't seem like she was very caring. She is very caring. She's just very, very upset, and she's very stressed, and just please keep that into consideration. And I'll leave I'll say about that. So I haven't really discussed any of this, on my podcast yet. So I think it's important, first of all, that we touch on the Hot Mic podcast. So, okay, last week, the Hot Mic interview dropped, where I admitted to struggling with addiction, specifically cocaine for many, many years. Guys, I was really nervous to come out with that. But at the end of the day, I was really, really happy that I did for so many reasons. I'm sure most of you already listened to the episode before, and I just want to recap this a little bit so in case you haven't, and you can get a little bit more feedback on how everything went down. So, yes, I've had an addiction for cocaine for roughly 20 years. That's a long freaking time. I'm sure, obviously this is not a surprise or a big revelation to many of you that have watched me over the years. But as crazy as that sounds, it was, in a way, a surprise to me. It was a very difficult thing for me to come to terms with and admit to myself. For a long, long time, I made so many excuses and justified it to myself. Like it wasn't something I did every day, or I don't have a problem, or relax, worry about yourself, or whatever. It was more used in a recreational way, in my opinion. So I could stop at any time. I've said that before. I believe I said it on Mr. Alex Baskin's podcast that the problem for addicts isn't the drugs or alcohol. There's a much, much larger underlying issue on drugs and alcohol. And, people use this to cope and mask the real problems. I have a lot of real problems in my life, things that I've never unpacked, with my family, with my mental health, not realizing I was bipolar until now, just racing thoughts, depression, just not being happy. And people are like, well, how could you not be happy? You're on a successful TV show. You have money in the bank. You got a beautiful this and that. It's crazy. Like I had all these things or have all these things, and I was just still really, really upset and angry. And I don't know where it came from. And, I've had a lot of struggles, throughout the years. So my mental health issues that I wasn't aware of, like my recent bipolar, like I said, my diagnosis and my PTSD, that was all huge, huge issues. And again, my mental health just really, really suffered. And I'd use drugs and alcohol to get better, because that's what drugs and alcohol does. It numbs your pain for, like cocaine, it numbs it for 2 freaking hours. Now think about that for a second, right? I do this drug so I can forget about my problems for 2 hours, because after about 2 hours, you need to do more. It's one of those drugs that you just got to keep doing to keep the high going, right? But as soon as you come off that shit, as soon as you come off it, it is the worst experience ever. For those of you who have tried cocaine, the next 24 hours is the worst feeling in the world. Like, why do you do it then, right? Why do you do this drug that makes you feel somewhat okay, unstoppable, powerful, talkative, social for 2 hours just so you can have 24 to 48 hours of hell? And I don't know. I can't answer that question. I wish I could, because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Why do you do this drug? To look like an idiot, to look like you're bulging out of your eyes are bulging. Why do people do it? I don't know. Like I said, you're masking. That's the only thing I can think of. So everything came to a serious hit this past year. The worst of it being, for me, after separating with Brittany and dealing with all that, I coped by going out more. I coped by partying more, using more substances. It just got so out of control. During the summer when we were filming, I was really at my lowest point. I completely God, I remember. I completely lost it when I found out that Brittany had been secretly hooking up with my friend. Like, I don't know what man wouldn't go crazy finding out that their wife, girlfriend, whatever, was secretly hooking up with one of your good friends. And that's kind of, I saw red. I saw many, many shades of red. Let me just say that. And I went completely crazy. When I say crazy, was putting it lightly, which ultimately led me back into the facility, Cyclarity, where I spent 30 days. And, that's where I got my bipolar diagnosis. And I think I was relieved to finally know what was wrong with me and to get on the right medication. Yeah, I had to quit drinking and alcohol, but I also had to get on some medication because this shit wasn't going to go away. Like, yes, I have to go to therapy. Yes, I have to meet with people. Yes, I have to stop drinking alcohol, but I also have to get to the root of the problem. And that was my bipolar disorder, which I've never knew I had. And leaving the facility, I unfortunately went back to using. In November, right before Thanksgiving, there was another incident with Brittany, and my son just so happened to be in the car. And I saw a text come in from a guy on Brittany's phone that was connected to my Bluetooth, and I went absolutely crazy and went another full-blown rage. So I started to see patterns with my anger and my behaviors, and they're always at their worst. And after a night of using, drugs and cocaine, and it was bananas. And the stuff was poison for me. And I became an absolute freaking monster. So that's why I went back, because I just turned my head and I was like, oh my God, my son is in the back seat and I'm going crazy on his mother. And that was just my worst freaking nightmare. It's any parent's worst nightmare, is arguing with your partner in front of your child. And as soon as I did that, I was like, no, you don't even have to tell me, Brittany. I got to go back in. This cannot fucking happen. So, after that, I went back to the inpatient Cyclarity specifically to, help back with my addiction. I went back for 17 days, I think. I didn't really finish the full 30 days because I felt personally that I was ready to leave. I just needed to go back and be like, okay, this is what's going to happen if you keep fucking up. I needed to go in and just kind of check in. It was like a check-in thing. I'm like, okay, I slipped, guys. What do I have to do? Get me back on the right track and then put me out. It was kind of like a pit stop NASCAR race, right? Cars come in, they fix their tires, they get their gas, they go back out there and win. And I needed to take a pit stop. I basically just cut off a little bit, regrouped, went back out there. And I've been sober ever since. I think right now, in real time, I'm at 97 days. Everything's day by day, though. It's definitely not easy. I've been more committed than ever, though. I really, really, really have been so committed to not drinking, not doing drugs, and my therapy. I have a lot of other serious fucking issues that I got to deal with, but I do know I have the drinking and the drugs under control. I'm not saying I'm not fixed by any means. I'll never be fixed. I will always be an addict. I will always have a problem. But today, right now, I have it under control, and I'm not going to drink today. And, I think, what I had on the line, my family and not being able to see my son, I knew that I just couldn't go back to that lifestyle anymore. My son's motivation, anytime I'm having a rough day, I think of him, and he needs his dad. So if I ever even get a thought or whatever about drinking or drugs again, all I have to do is think about Cruz, and it goes away. It's the best medicine, that little boy. Who doesn't love the good things in life? Even though I enjoy a little luxury, it doesn't mean I can always afford it. Until I discovered Quince. Quince is my go-to for luxury essentials and affordable prices. Quince offers a range of high-quality items at prices within reach, like 100% Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50, washable silk tops and dresses, organic cotton sweaters, and 14-karat gold jewelry. The best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I love that. Now, guys, I talked about this so many times, and I know a lot of ladies are listening out there. If you want to find the most comfortable T-shirts ever. I mean, I wear mine to the gym. I wear mine to the bar. I wear mine to go pick up Cruz. I literally wear them to bed. I wear them everywhere. I'm telling you, ladies, pick your men up some of these shirts. You're going to absolutely love them, and you're probably going to end up stealing them too. I know people always ask, what colors do I like? I like the black. I like the navy. I like dark colors. But the white's actually really, really cool too. So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/JB for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/JB to get free shipping and a 365-day return. Quince.com/JB. You know, many of you have been saying things like, well, you know, obviously the people around him knew and he had a problem. Why didn't anybody help him? That's a huge thing right now. And everybody keeps saying it's not anybody's, you know, job to tell me. They can only tell me so much. And I think, to be honest, I think all the girls did. I don't know about the guys so much. Kristen for sure, Sheena for sure, Lala for sure, all said, Jax, you need to get fucking help. But I'm a guy, right? Now we're filming the show. Everything's going great. Why? I'm not going to get help. You guys need help, right? I just wish I really would have got help sooner. You know, Brittany had been trying to, you know, get me help for a very, very long time. And I said this before, and I said it earlier. She has. Please, you know, don't come after her for that. It's not her fault at all. It's completely mine. I just ignored it, you know. But you know, when your marriage is deteriorating and there's so much tension in the relationship, I would get extremely, extremely defensive anytime she would say something, and I just didn't want to hear it. You know, my team, Lori and Ryan, who you guys all know, I'm really, really close with them, have been very, very concerned about me for years. And I got to say, I talked to them every single day while I was in the facility. Those were the two people that could call me that I put on my list, and it helped out a lot. Like, I think I was on the phone with Lori probably at least an hour to 2 hours every single day, just talking about everything and anything, and it really helped me. I don't know if I would have gotten through it if it wasn't for Lori and Ryan. You know, as an addict and a consenting adult, it's me who has to be there, the one who wants to, you know, accept the help. So it was really this past year when I hit rock bottom that I was really at risk of losing everything, pretty much. You know, I mean, I when I say everything, I mean, yeah, I mean everything. I finally had to check myself in. And, you know, you guys are all about to see this in great, great detail, unfortunately, on season 2 when it comes out. It's definitely it's definitely the hardest season of my life. I know I've said this every year, Vanderpump, but this will by far be the hardest time on TV, or hardest time I've ever been on TV, hardest season of my life. So on that note, let me introduce my first official guest. I couldn't think of a better first guest than the OG man, the legend himself, my friend, the executive producer and creator of Vanderpump Rules and The Valley, someone that has known me for close to 15 years, who's really seen it all, and I mean it all. Say hi to Alex Baskin. How you doing, Alex?
Hey, Jax. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you coming by. Obviously, saw everything that came out, and it was really surreal. I think I was really nervous about that podcast coming out. I wasn't sure how people were going to take to it. I wasn't really, I don't know, it was a very, you know, vulnerable, raw moment, you know. I really appreciate you being here, though. So, you know, it was a very, very rough season we filmed last summer. I'm extremely anxious to relive all that. You know, I mean, how was it for you? What do you think?
You know, I've said that it is the wildest second season of any series that I've ever done. And I mean, I compare it to Vanderpump Rules, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and others. But there's so much volatility, and there are so many developments that we catch in progress that it's really intense. I think that it'll probably be difficult to relive when you watch it, because I think that you're going to experience it all over again.
Yeah, that's it's going to be hard. And like in true Vanderpump, you know, Valley fashion, you know, they had no idea how the season was going to go. It wasn't supposed to start that way. We were going in with very just high hopes and really excited, and things took a serious turn. So, okay, so I kind of want to ask you, you know, a few questions, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
We're going to be raw here a little bit. So, on a scale of, I guess, 1 to 10, how scared should I be? Don't answer that. I have anxiety now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think on the one hand, what I would say is, I mean, you know what happened. You were there,
I lived it.
right?
I mean,
so I don't think there's anything surprising, because
it can only be as bad as I think it's going on in my head.
Yeah.
I know everything that I've done. I know everything that could be on there. So I don't know. I mean, But I also, at the same time, I know it's going to be bad, but I also want people to see what I went through. I want people to see how bad it got and now how good it can be.
Well, that's part of the reason that obviously you've told your story since then, because it's all part of it. And so I think that context is really important.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be a lot to relive. What I can't sugarcoat is I don't think that you'll see it and that it wouldn't take you back to what you went through at the time. I think that's stuff. And you really relive everything. And the other thing is, even for as many years as you've done this, you get pissed at people again.
I know, I do. It's not fair because they're obviously living in the moment. And yeah, I do. I get mad at people again. And I'm like, I understand that. And if you, what do they say? If you can't dish it, you can't take. I'm very good at dishing it. And sometimes I have a hard time taking it.
And it's hard. I get it. It's hard not to see it and respond. But I think when you see it again, I do think the challenge will be that I think you will be brought back emotionally to where you were over the summer.
I'm very curious if I'm going to, and am I going to watch it? How long am I going to be at the premiere party?
I know.
I don't know. It's going to come up to the final moment for me. Like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. Like we filmed obviously a lot of seasons on Vanderpump, and there was really no repercussions for my actions. And now that I'm married, well, I was married and I have a family and a son, and there's a lot on the line. It's a lot on the line. Where like before, it was a slap on the wrist. I will get over it. These are like things that you can't come back from if you screw up, and these are huge liabilities if I don't fix my actions. So. Anyway, I appreciate that. I think it's gonna, like I said, I'm nervous about it. I'm anxious about it. I'm worried for Brittany a little bit. Like I know she's going to have to relive a lot of that. Yeah. I think my skin is extremely, extremely thick. Yeah. I get angry, but I get over it. But I'm concerned about how Brittany is going to, react to all this, how upset she's going to be. But I really just want to get this over with. I really want to rip the Band-Aid off. I mean, the premiere can't come any sooner at this point. I just wish it was here. I'm like, can we get this done? Can we just rip it off? Because the anxiety I'm getting from this is just insane. But
soon enough.
I know. So let's get back to the Vanderpump days. When it all started, what were your first impressions of me? Let's be honest.
Oh, man.
Just your first impression.
Well, I heard a lot about you before I met you. So, and you're a hard person to understand and appreciate before actually getting to know you, because I had heard about all of the trouble that you caused, that you were the most fun, the most messy, the most everything. And then I will never forget where we were at the Belmont, which was the spot that we went to.
We all first met, the whole cast. Yeah.
And we went there many times, but the first time I had heard of the notorious Jax Taylor. And then in you walked, and you were carrying your and Stassi's dog. Yeah. And so it was kind of incongruous to what I had heard. It's larger-than-life guy holding this tiny little dog. But I had never met a group of friends that was closer, that did more shit to each other, and that was more open about it. And if you think about it, those are all like essential ingredients for a television series. And so I always say that when people are like, did that group amp things up for cameras? I'm like, no. In fact, we could barely keep up with what was really happening in all your relationships. And
I said this before. I think there were times where we almost had to tone it down. And they were like, wait a minute, this can't be real. Like, no, but this is how we really are. We're like, sometimes they were just like, this can't be real. Like, you guys need to calm down. We're like, calm down. This is who we are. This is what you wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Isn't this, sorry, we're too much for you guys. But, it was like we justified all of our actions. I say this before. If you've seen this show, Tell Me Lies, it's literally a spitting image of Vanderpump Rules. It's just the toxicity and the narcissism and the backstabbing and the shit that we've done to each other, and then try to justify it. Became friends 5 minutes later. You're like,
oh my God. F? I know. I couldn't keep track of it. And then, we would always, like, the producers would, like, fret about the fact that we would miss things in the off season.
Yeah.
If only we had cameras up. And I'm like, but you could say that, like, we could have cameras on you guys 24/7.
Yeah,
right?
You could.
I mean,
oh, yeah, you guys were so crazy. Like, I remember, like, Jen and them. What are you guys talking about? Who are you talking to? Are you texting anybody? Where are you guys at? I noticed you're at this restaurant. Why did you guys go on vacation together without telling us? All these little things. I'm like, well, we're not filming. What are we supposed to do? Not see each other? And that's why everyone's saying, like, this can't be real. Like, yes, we hang around each other 24/7. It was like we were like the group of friends that hung out every single day in the coffee shop. That's just how we were.
Yeah.
So it drove you guys nuts. But anyway, did you think Vanderpump Rules would be such a cultural phenomenon as it became? Do you think?
Well, I would never be so audacious to think that it would become what it ultimately did.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great show.
Right.
So I knew we had a show, unquestionably. And I knew that we had, again, this group whose lives were completely intertwined. They were game to share it on television, or if not, you would call anyone out if they were trying to hide something. So, that was part of it. And I knew it was something that people would want to watch, but I never would have predicted that it would have had the run that that it still continues to have.
Why did you decide to end Vanderpump after season 11? Do you think it'll ever get picked back up again?
So the decision to move on from the original group, it was collective. And I think meaning that it was the network and the producers and Lisa. And I think the feeling was we couldn't continue to make the show that we had made for 11 years.
Right.
Because we had a really splintered group. And so at that point, instead of following around the reality, which is what we had already done, making the show would have informed the reality.
Right.
So it didn't make sense. And then the other thing is, I had done some scouting of SUR, and there was this really exciting new group there. And so both of those things together kind of meant we thought, why don't we go in a different direction? And instead of trying to look for the magic we used to have, why don't we do something new? And so not an easy decision to make.
I mean, they have huge shoes to fill. Let's be honest. You got big shoes to fill.
And what I would say is I don't think that we try to fill them. I think we try to make a great show that finds its own footing, because we can't. If we were,
you'll never do that. And you should get in. You should honestly. What I would think too is, if you ever sit them down, have a meeting. Listen, obviously, you guys have a big cloud, but don't think like that. This is your show. This is something that you guys need to make your own. Don't worry about the old Vanderpump. That show's done and gone. Okay, it's time for the new cast. Kind of like Saved by the Bell, the new cast.
Yeah,
it's time for you guys to make your own.
Are you comparing Lisa to Mr. Belding?
No, I wouldn't do that to Mr. Belding.
Shady.
I know. Do you think season 11 would have been panned out differently if myself, Brittany, Kristen, and Stassi would have been on? Do you think it would have been a little different?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that it would have been, because that's a lot of firepower, and so I think that would have changed. But here's what I wouldn't change.
That is a lot of firepower. Now that I read that question,
I mean, of course, right? I mean, yeah, between all four of you guys, but what I wouldn't change is then we wouldn't have the Valley, right? I mean, and so to me, it was time to split the show up anyway.
Yeah,
and I'm so glad that we did that, because the Valley now has an identity all of its own.
I know.
And everything comes to an end. There's a natural life cycle in things. And so I don't think what if about Vanderpump Rules, because I think 11 years is a hell of a run.
And you left on a high note.
The ratings were actually higher last season than they were the season before, which only had a few episodes post Scandovol that actually happened. And so I think it's great. I think that we now have two series. We have a brand new opportunity with a new group of people. And to your point, there's a lot of pressure on them, but all I can say to them is,
I think they're killing it.
Be yourselves. I think there's that. And then we have the Valley.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I meant,
there is that pressure, but I feel like if you just tell them to stay away from, I wouldn't even watch it. Do your own thing. Start something new. That was a whole different generation, a whole different time. That world wouldn't work today. You guys got to make this your own.
Yeah. That's right.
That's my advice anyway.
I think that's right. I mean, I don't think that you chase ghosts,
right.
And I think they do have to make it their own show, and we're prepared for that. But it's the same basic principles. It's a group of people that really work together, that have relationships that are, completely commingled in every way.
Yeah, well, that's SUR for you.
And that's exactly. And so it continues. So if we do our job right, it'll have echoes of the original, but it'll feel different. And I always, I bristle at the term reboot, because that sounds like it's something orchestrated that we're doing.
Right.
It's a new show under the same moniker that is set at the same place.
I think I'm gonna have to crash one of your little parties at SUR when it starts going on. And
I would expect no less.
I think I got to pop in and peek my head in and see what's going on. Maybe give them some pointers, what to do and definitely what not to do. But anyway, I hate to bring up this and continue to give it life, but since I have you here, I definitely want your opinion. Obviously, too, seeing him on TV last night, scandovol. That was absolutely nuts, as everybody knows. So many people have cheated. But here's the thing. This is my question. So many people have cheated on reality TV. Why do you think it got so out of hand and went absolutely viral for over a year? I mean, people are literally still talking about it. And literally, I think besides Ariana, I think everybody's cheated on that show. If I'm maybe one other person, I'm not quite sure, but everybody has cheated on Vanderpump.
Everyone's a little tainted, no question.
Right.
I think it's hard. I still can't really wrap my head around it because I think it caught a lot of momentum, and I think it became, something bigger than we ever would have imagined. But I think it was a few things. I think it was, one, the timing of it. So the fact that it came out when it did,
right,
and we were where we were in the season, so you could then watch the rest of the season knowing that. I think there was that. I also think the fact that people thought it was the ultimate betrayal because Tom and Ariana were together for so long and it happened right under her nose and for such an extended period of time.
Yeah.
The fact that it was between 3 cast members.
Yeah,
so it wasn't
true.
like the other party wasn't on the show.
Right.
So I think all of that.
And it wasn't just a hookup and done. It was like a full-on affair.
And I think I think the idea that he was, then people thought he was living a double life. And there was that. And then I will say the way that Ariana handled it with, such poise and such strength. And so she took it to him. And so I think that people, the audience wants someone to rally behind. And they had a villain and they had someone to rally behind.
I know. It was just. I keep thinking about the timing, and you're the best one to explain this because everybody and their brothers got their opinions and whatever on this. And I think if anybody should listen to anybody's opinions, it's yours. I mean, it's coming from what's the saying? The horse's head, the mouth's head. What do they say? What do they say? What's the saying? I butcher sayings.
Yeah, the horse's mouth.
The horse's mouth. I mean, if you're going to listen to anybody's why it happened, I think Alex is the one to listen to. In the Mind of a Man is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you think about switching insurance companies to see if you can save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you are eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states. If you could do another spinoff with some of the cast from Vanderpump, who would it be? Besides the Valley, of course. I mean, if you had your own spinoff, the Valley doesn't exist. If you were going to create a spinoff, you don't have to say my name, but if you're going to create a spinoff, who would you use?
Of the OGs in Vanderpump?
Uh-huh.
Well, I
feel like we're doing it with the Valley, but I hate to say it. But
I was going to say, I mean, I think everyone is sort of covered, right?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah.
There's one couple that I really wish would have been on, and we've tried, and I just can't get them on. It's Stassi and Bo. I wish I could weather that freaking storm. It's just the one that's hanging over my head right now, and I've tried to reach out, and I understand they're upset with me. This wedding situation that I caused.
Is that what it comes down to?
I think so. I think it's because I said I was going to go, and it was right in the middle of COVID. There was a couple reasons why we couldn't go to Italy. Is one, the main one, Cruz didn't have a passport. We were trying to get it expedited. Obviously, it was during COVID. I'm sure everybody and their brother was trying to get a passport expedited at that time, and we thought it was going to come in within a week or two. So we didn't get that. So Cruz couldn't go. So that I had an idea in my head. I'm like, okay, Cruz can't go. Why don't you and your mom go to Brittany? Why don't you and your mom go? Your mom has a passport. Keep the baby here. So that was going to be the plan. Then Brittany's mom's best friend's husband passed away, and it was her best friend's husband. So it just wasn't in the cards. And then, coming out, like breaking down the price and everything. I mean, like, we can't make this work. We don't know. This is $20,000, $30,000. How are we going to make this work with no babysitter, with no, it just didn't work. And there was a lot of things coming into it. And I didn't know. I had to go and say, listen, how am I going to tell Bo this? How am I going to tell Stassi this without them being upset? So I decided to go to Bo's best friend, Rob, and say, hey, listen, Rob, I feel awful. I can't go to this wedding. I know it's in 5 days. How do I tell Bo? He's like, okay, you need to tell him right away, A, B, and C. I'm like, okay, I'll get to it. Let me just figure out something to say. Before I got to tell Bo, Rob told him. And unfortunately, it didn't come out of my mouth, so I don't know how it was worded. And Bo just got really upset. Stassi got really upset. We have apologized. We sent them money. it just was really unfortunate how it all turned out. Was it my fault? Yeah, it was. We probably should have gotten the passport sooner, or it's just the way life is. It just wasn't meant to be. So that's the whole reason.
Have you spoken to them since then?
I've reached out multiple times. I've ran into Stassi a few times, and she's always like, hey, I'm so happy for you at the bar and stuff like that. She's always very kind to me. I know she talks to Brittany, but Bo, we have a couple mutual friends, and every time I see them, I'm like, hey, can you tell Bo to call me, and tell Bo I miss him, and tell Bo I want him to come to my bar because he would love my bar. And he's my – I don't
Why
care.
don't you reach out to him directly?
I should. I'm just nervous, and I'm scared a little bit because I just don't think he wants to see me. It just sucks. And we're getting older, I'm not scared to say, hey, I miss the guy. So it just sucks. Anyway, moving on from that. So many people are dying to know when season 2 of The Valley comes out. What can you tell people, and when will we find this out?
I can tell you that there will be an announcement about this very soon. So I can't steal the thunder of the announcement, but all I will say is that the wait is nearly over, and it's worth it.
It is worth it. And is there going to be another trailer? Because people love the trailer. Though it is like another teaser. What do you guys call it?
Oh, there's going to be a super teaser.
Okay, there's another super teaser coming out. And people want to know, is there more teasers coming out?
It'll blow your socks off. And we're finalizing the super tease in the middle of the season, because we do one in the middle of the season as well.
Yeah.
And it's nuts. I mean, I reflect on how much happened over the summer, and I can't believe it, because there's the headlines that everyone knows. And then there's everything else in between, and there's the story behind them, and so I think it's a wild second season. I mean, it starts off at a very high pitch of intensity, and it never lets up the entire time.
And in truth, like I said, it was not expected, man. Like how it went down the first couple.
No,
you people are going to be in for such a surprise. But be gentle with me, please. Please be gentle. So, which talent from any show you work with would say is the most demanding? Who texts or calls you the most? Like out of all your shows, your Housewives, whatever.
Yeah.
Who is the most? And if you can't say it, like, well, you can't.
Yeah, I think. Okay, so I'm going to be honest and diplomatic at the same time. Okay, so. It sometimes depends on who is going through the most.
Yeah.
So it's not always the same.
Yeah.
But then there's different tendencies. There's people who apologize for reaching out and feel bad, and so reach out only when they need to.
Right.
And you don't reach out a lot.
No, I'll check in with you. How you doing?
Yeah.
Obviously what I was going through for the last year, you were involved.
Totally.
Which I really, really appreciated. How are you doing? Is this going okay? Or what do you think? And I always ask your opinion. So I'm always like, hey, what do you think about this? Whatever. Like I said, I respect everything you have to say. But no, I know you are a very, very, very busy person. You have a lot of shows. You have a lot of different cast members with a lot of different personalities. I can only imagine you're kind of like not only what you do, but you can also throw therapists in there too.
Oh, and I've stopped. I used to keep my phone by my bed, and I would keep my ringer on, and I would field all of the calls and texts in the middle of the night. And I stopped doing that a long time ago.
I don't know how you put up with all these ladies' personalities. I can only imagine. I know it's on our show, but then you just triple it, quadruple it with the Housewives too, and all whatever else that is. I can't imagine. I was talking about that actually with Lori. I'm like, how do you think he does that?
I'm fortunate to work with a lot of really capable people who also have a handle on what's going on. And so, shout out to Jeremiah and Keith and whoever else. So I do not mean to suggest that it is just me, but it can be a lot. And there are certain times where I'm like, can you just let us actually address the thing that you're calling about instead of talking about it?
Right.
But, and so it goes. And I also appreciate the fact that it's really hard to do the shows, that you're sort of laying yourself bare, and it's an intense personal experience. And so I know that people want reassurance or also want to control what's happening around them.
Yeah. I think a lot of people like to micromanage. I think they want to control. They want to see their own self-produce. A lot of people, especially as the shows get later and later. In the beginning, you're fine, but usually around the 4th or 5th season, people try to self-produce themselves.
They're editing the shows in their head.
Exactly.
And so if they don't like what happened, then they're trying to control it right after the fact.
Right. And you can tell, usually if the show's been going on for many seasons, you can tell people trying to, maneuver scenes or manufacture scenes, and it always comes out. You can't do that. You just can't, because the truth always comes out, like you said, and you can't manufacture shit. You can't.
No, I've often said that every subsequent season is harder. So people think that this can be a formula and second season's easier, third season's easier. That's just not true.
It's not. It actually gets a little harder because people get smarter. So I think anyway. And the fans, by the way, you guys are so awesome. You're not dumb. You know how this game works.
No.
You can see the transparencies. You can see what's authentic and what's not. And that's
the audience spots everything.
They spot everything. I mean, the things that they notice about me is like the stuff that they say or they see in the show. I'm like, how did you see that? Or how did you know that? Or I'm just always baffled by that. What would you say is the craziest thing you've seen on any shows that you've worked on?
Oh, God. It's so tough to answer because I would say I'm constantly surprised because life is so unexpected. Sometimes
Are you shocked anymore about things that come? Like, can anything shock you right now? I just don't think so.
I'm surprised by what we catch or capture, and every once in a while, people surprise me in ways good and bad. So they'll surprise me in I may think that people don't have growth in them, and you'll see it, right? And so that's really positive.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'm surprised by the double lives people lead. That still surprises me because I still think I can't believe that you would go on a show if you have this much beneath the surface and that you would actually think that it wouldn't come out.
Yeah.
That still amazes me every time. And maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe at this point I shouldn't be surprised, but I still am.
No, especially the way with the internet and everything like that. There's nothing you can hide anymore.
No secrets.
No secrets.
And you're considered fair game if you're on a reality show.
Right.
Then there's whatever comes up in the show, and we don't set that up to happen, but it just is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then to your point, the audience is super passionate about the shows, and once someone is a public person,
right,
then everything that is out there will be discovered at some point, and usually not in the way that you would like.
Yeah, well, yes,
you can confirm that.
I've gone on both ends of the sword, mostly on that, and yeah, I can confirm that. Like I said, it's really, really tough. I mean, the audience really lets you know. They really, really let you know how they feel, and they have they don't care. They really, really don't. But it's like I said, we sign up for this. We put it all out there, and we choose to put it all out there, some more than others. But, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So I see you're working with Kristen Cavallari,
yes,
documenting her upcoming podcast tour. I'm going on a podcast tour. Might be a missed opportunity, but that's okay. I'm pretty excited about this. This is my first one. Obviously, Kristen Cavallari is a big deal. She's awesome. I'm super proud of her and excited to see some of her stuff because I've been following her.
She's awesome.
You know what? There's actually a whole other show behind the scenes of the show, which there really, really is.
Oh, yeah.
There really is like a whole thing that goes behind. And I can't remember. I think there's a show that's trying to do that right now, like a Bachelor type show where they're trying to film the whole behind.
Well, they did Unreal. They
is
did
that what it's called?
Yeah, that was a few years ago, and that was
Did it do well?
It did do well. It was on for a few seasons.
Because like people especially the Vanderpump days, if you would have caught some of the behind like the video villages and because a lot of people don't know where is everybody set up, and usually if we're filming in a home or something like that, they'll go into a room that we don't use a lot. For example, my house was my garage. That's kind of where they all set up. So there'll be TVs in there because they're watching everybody and they're trying to make sure everything's running smoothly. And if there's a fight in one room and then a fight in another room, they're panicking back there because there's not enough cameras up in one room. It's crazy.
It's insane to get to the 3 minutes that you see on television.
That's the thing.
It's the whole story.
It's the whole story. And like I said, people don't understand the amount of hours we film. Like if we're filming during season, it's 7 days a week. It's hours and hours and hours of footage, and it's all cut into 45-minute shows, right? So you have, between 6 and 8 couples, like I said. You're trying to get everybody's story. And, you watch the show, and recently sometimes I would get really mad. I'm like, fuck, that's not how it went down. It's not their fault. But the thing is that they have to cut it up to give every person their allotted time. So they always be like, why is Jack's acting like a crazy idiot? Well, you didn't see how it started. You didn't see how it ended. You see me at the highest point because we got to catch everybody's highest points, right? And that part frustrated me. Be like, well, you didn't see how it started. That's why I got so mad. You just see as Jack's the crazy person going off the handle. So that part to me was always a little frustrating, but, it is what it is. But like I said, there should be a show definitely behind the crew because those guys have seen so much. I've literally grown up with Jeremiah, with Jenna. I mean, I've seen their kids be born. They've seen mine be born. I've gone through marriages with some of the crew. So we all know them since They're like family. They had keys to our houses, for God's sakes. They would walk in while I was sleeping. Like, that's how close we were, in showers, in pools.
It's a very intimate relationship. I mean,
it is.
I mean, you see each other at all times. You go through life together.
Yeah, and they would get emotional too during things, and they'd be filming things that were probably uncomfortable for them. And sometimes I would notice they would put the camera down, and like they would have to have therapy over the stuff that we were filming.
I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I face is there's a sense that it's the producers versus the cast, and that isn't true at all.
No.
There's a closeness to it. We're all a unit, which means sometimes there are issues the cast might not like.
Right.
Something that happens. They might not like something that airs, but we go through it together. We really are a team.
I mean, you're never going to make everybody happy. That's impossible. You know, and I mean, that's just, like I said, that's just the way it is. But people always ask, like, do you know the crew? I get that question a lot. Like, yeah, we're very, very, very close. And we try to respect them as much as they respect us, and they're doing their job. They're paid to do their job. People ask that too, like, are you mad that they got in the way or say this? Like, no, that's their job. They're just doing what they need to do. And like I said, I love each and every one of them. I've had such a good relationship with all of them over the years. I think I had one issue one time, in which it was my fault. I got mad, and which you don't do, by the way. This is a little secret. You don't ever take off your mic. Never. That is like a big no-no, and that literally can get you fired off a show by taking off your mic. And one season, I think I was at the Viper Room, and I was pissed and angry, and I'm like, I'm fucking out of here. And those are one of my diva moments. We all know I've had a lot of those, and I decided to take off the mic. And I mean, the mic guys, they're so close to their mics, and they take very good care of them. And I lost it. Then every production got mad at me. But yeah, that's the one thing. If you see a reality guy taking off, or a cast member taking off their mics, they're in some serious shit.
Yeah,
you can't do that. That's the one thing you can't do. It's like in the contract when we do the reality shows. Like, I feel like that should be number one because it really upsets everybody. It screws it up.
The time that the team was the most upset with you, though, wasn't then. You know what I'm going to say. It was Beach Day.
Oh, my God. Can we go through this?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I think that my demise, I think my final demise of Vanderpump, or really put the nail in the coffin for me, is towards the end. Obviously, everybody who's watched the show always noticed towards the end I would have a lot of diva moments where I'm like, I'm done. I'm moving to Florida, or yada, yada. I was doing this or whatever. One, I was just heated. It was during the I can't remember. There was a lot of arguing and fighting going on, per usual. And there was a scene they wanted to do at the beach, which was in Malibu. Okay, we all live in Hollywood. And I'm like, we can do the same scene at a park in West Hollywood. Like, why do we need to go in rush hour 3 o'clock to get to Malibu to shoot a 5-minute scene, which is going to take 2 hours to get there? All the parking, it's going to. I'm micromanaging, by the way. I'm like, listen, we could do the same scene. It costs half as much, and let's use that money and go on vacation. Like, I was micromanaging, and I was pulling a diva moment. Like, I'm not going to the fucking beach. We could literally get the same exact conversation that we're trying to get at the park across the street and get the same whatever. I can't remember, the same idea. You know, they wanted us to go to the beach and help clean, which is fine, but I just was, no, I'm not fucking doing it. I'm not driving 3 hours. And I thought that's when my shit didn't stink. That's when I needed a piece of humble pie. And I think the network was like, we've had enough of this guy.
Well, no, because the funny thing that you did, so this is like the best part of the story to me, is because you definitely were at a point where
I was telling other people not to go, too.
That's what it was. Oh. So, because that's what got to us, is you were being a pain in the ass about it, and you were saying, I'm not going to go, this is so stupid, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you were texting
Max.
Yeah. And so then, of course, like, you know, I mean, we saw those texts.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, can you believe Jax is sabotaging
I know.
production?
Such a dumbass move. And I feel like that was kind of my nail in the coffin, because I've rubbed them all throughout the years, and I think that was just kind of the final one. They're like, listen, he needs a piece of humble pie, and he can't be doing this, and he can't be, especially texting other cast members not to go,
so
trying to form a mutiny, whatever, like, forget it.
It was a shaky alliance.
Yeah. I know, as you guys know, we've worked very, very hard on the Valley. You know, I was really excited about this idea, and then obviously I came to Alex about it, and we had like a 2 or 3 hour conversation at the Amarano Hotel, and it was really good. And I was like, okay, you know, I'm really ready to come back to TV. What do you think of this idea? And, you know, we pitched it, and you were on board. You were like, okay, I think it's time. Because it was during COVID. Obviously, me, Stassi, and Kristen left the show. I think enough time has passed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought it all came together. So I thought when we were at Burbank's Finest Hotel.
Yeah,
and
my favorite place.
It is.
We go there. I'm there every week now. I've been
That's
there
great.
every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought that. I thought a few things. I thought we had talked about spinning off Vanderpump at some point anyway, because life had taken a bunch of the main cast in a different direction, right? Which is like, quite literally to the other side of the hill.
Yeah.
And buying homes and starting families. And so that was always of interest to me. And then because of a bunch of developments, and it was COVID, and then obviously a bunch that happened on Vanderpump on and off camera, then that wasn't in the cards. And by the time we met up, you were in a very different place.
Yeah.
And you were ready to come back into the fold. You really appreciated it at that point. And also, you had this really interesting new group that made sense for us to document. And so it was just, sort of the basic principles of a show was like, who is in your life now?
Yeah.
Couple
the same, and then we added a couple. And what's great about the show is everybody that's been on the Valley has been on Vanderpump Rules either in the background or at a party.
Peripherally, we
didn't just bring people in.
No, and we wouldn't do that. And so that's because obviously what was so special about Vanderpump in the first place was you had this nucleus of friends.
Right.
And so it was the same thing. It just was a different group at a different time in your life.
Yeah.
And so it was really exciting to sort of, get to know that group a little bit better. And then by the time we launched the show, look, did we benefit from the fact that Vanderpump was peaking and was? Of course we did.
Oh yeah,
and we paid it forward. We did the great crossover with you going to West Hollywood, and got some shots in at Tom.
That was really cool because I kind of like Sheena did the same thing with the beginning of Vanderpump and Housewives. So
I'm all about a crossover, so I thought that was great, and so we were able to kiss off from Vanderpump to the Valley, and I'm proud of how much the audience has responded to the Valley, because I think at first there was skepticism, and I think people thought we were trying to cram another show down their throats. They weren't sure what to make of it. And then once they were in, they were fully in, and it stands on its own now.
Right.
And so I think that's great. It's so hard to do right now on television because it's so crowded. There's so many shows.
There is.
But people love the Valley, and so they love it for all the obvious things, which is that, is there conflict? Is it loud? Is it exciting? All of that. Yes. It's also very relatable, and people identify with some of the struggles that the group is going through.
That's exactly why I wanted to do it, and I think we're all at different places in our lives, and now we're dealing with some real shit. And we're not living in Hollywood and playing house and get drunk and going to parties and bars. Now we're getting married. People are trying to have children.
Yeah.
People are getting separated or divorced. Or these are real life issues where people can be like, okay, that was cool to watch that show, but now this is stuff that people are actually dealing with in the real world. Like, wow, they're dealing with this, so am I. Like, what are they doing?
Well, I think that, and so it used to be the conventional wisdom was that people wouldn't want to watch a show about raising a family, those kinds of things, because it wouldn't give them an escape from their regular lives. Clearly, we've proven they do want to watch that.
Right.
And to your point, there's consequences. When you're a kid, and I say kid in the relative sense, but when you're young, right, and you're in your 20s and even into your 30s, and you do dumb shit, it may or may not matter. When you have a family, when you're an adult, when you have businesses, it's completely different. And so the Valley also, to me, occupies the space between what we conventionally thought of as Vanderpump and Housewives. There's that whole broad swath of life, and that's what it's about.
Yeah. Do you like that? You like the cast?
I love the cast.
And when we started this, like I said, I was nervous because it was me, Kristen, and Brittany who've done this world before. And yeah, you've seen people on the cast that have been in the background of Vanderpump, but no one's really been a cast member. So we were unsure, like, are they going to be okay? How do they do it? And they knocked it out of the park.
Oh, they were so good, and they did it their own. I thought that it was a great mix of the veterans and new people, because I thought, you guys, you got them together and you talked about what making a television show entails and held them to that. It was great. And then they've all done it their own way, and they've all, come into their own. And for some of them where it may not have come as naturally, because being on television is not an easy thing to do.
It's not.
Like,
putting your whole life out there.
Yeah, that's hard, and it's brave, and they've grown into it. And so I could not be more proud of it. I mean, I love the fact that there was an outcry last year that we didn't have a reunion. I love that.
I know. I'm really, happy with how it went this year. It went as far as like behind how it was all done.
It's so good.
The crew was amazing this year. Everybody was really, really good. I'm really excited for you guys to see it, even though it's going to be a tough one for me, but I'm really excited for you guys to see the real rawness of everything. And I'm hoping that people watching it out there can get something out of this. That's, again, why I do this. I
will be curious to see, we talked about this before, but whether you do end up watching it, and I think it'll depend on what the healthiest thing for you to do is.
Yeah.
Because I think in some ways there's value to it because that really happened, and so I think there's value to seeing it. But on the other hand, I do appreciate the fact that it'll be difficult.
It will be difficult, but like many other episodes or seasons, I'll get through it. I'll get through it. I got really, really thick skin, so... Anyway, I appreciate it, Alex. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. Being my first guest on In the Mind of a Man, I just want to say thank you also for supporting me through the years, especially this past year. It's been a really, really tough battle, but I really, really appreciate it. It really, really means a lot. I consider you like a friend and family. We've been in each other's lives for a very, very long time. And, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have you in my life, and thank you so much for giving us another opportunity.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, guys, that's a wrap on episode 1 of In the Mind of a Man. Since this is a brand new podcast, please go rate and review. It's super important. I would really, really appreciate it so much. Another big announcement. Well, I touched on this a second ago, but I am taking In the Mind of a Man on the road. I'll soon be announcing my live tour. I'll be going to about 10 to 15 cities to have these unfiltered conversations with you live. We will have some very exciting special guests, too. I'm very excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait, so stay tuned for more info on that. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great week, and be safe.
Looking for your next case? Pluto TV has all your favorite crime dramas streaming for free.
We're gonna need some backup.
Which means suspense is free.
Very cool.
Watch CSI New York, Criminal Minds, Blue Bloods, Tracker, FBI, and SWAT all for free.
You can't outrun this.
Someone is gonna pay for all this crime. But it's not gonna be you.
Take care of business, fellas.
Watch all the cases, all for free, from all your favorite devices.
We got you.
Feel the free. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.